Hey guys, in this section we're going to talk about JQuery and how to implement it, how to manipulate certain elements in the DOM. We'll talk about events and a couple other things. So the first thing we need to do is go to jQuery.com and we want to download jQuery. Alright, well first let me create a folder for us to work in. So this is chapter 2, section 6. Alright, so I'm going to just click on the giant download jQuery button, and we can download either jQuery 1 or 2. I've been sticking with 1, so I'm going to download. We can download the compressed version or the uncompressed version for development. Basically what this means is compressed is the code's all squished together, there's no comments, it's basically unreadable, while the uncompressed version is well commented and you can actually kind of read it a little. We don't need to read it, so we're just going to get the compressed version, which is this, which just looks like a bunch of gibberish, but we're gonna copy all this. And in our folder, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it jQuery.js. And open that up and just paste in all that code and save it. And then we can close that and we never have to look at it again. So now what we want to do is create our HTML file. Alright, so let's open that up, and I'm going to open it with Notepad, paste in some HTML. So now what we need to do is we need to include our jQuery file. So we can do that in the head if we open up a script tag, and let's say type is text / JavaScript, and source is going to point to our file, which is jQuery.js, and it's in the same folder, so we don't have to specify any type of folder or anything like that. Alright, so now jQuery is included so we can use it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a heading, an H1 heading, and under that I'm going to open up some script tags. And when you're using jQuery, it is JavaScript, so it has to be in script tags unless it's in an external file. Now to grab an object from the DOM, we need to use the jQuery object, which is a $sign followed by some parentheses, and in here is where we want to put whatever it is we want to grab or select. In this case it's H1. Now this is going to grab all the H1 tags in the document because we haven't specified a class or an ID. In this case it's okay. Now once we have that object, we can manipulate it and do a lot of different things. We can add events, effects. One of the methods that we can use that's pretty simple that I can show you is the add class method. Alright, so as you can imagine, all that does is adds a class. So I'm gonna add a class called red. Alright, and I'm gonna actually put some style tags up here. And we're going to give it a class called red, and that is going to we're going to say color red. So it's just going to turn whatever text it is red. So if we save that and we reload, I'm sorry, I don't think that's the right file. Not sure what's going on here. Style. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to have a closing script tag here. I always forget to do that. Alright, so now if I reload, this heading has a style. If we look at it through the developer tools, we can see h1 class red. Now that's not here. We're not doing that. We're not assigning that class through HTML. We're doing it through jQuery. So that's how you select an object. Now, it isn't really optimal to have your jQuery and your script tags right in the body of your document. So if we take these, if we cut this out and we put it up here, and you always want to make sure that you're including jQuery first before you use any jQuery. So we'll paste that here in the head. Now if I save this and reload, you can see that it's lost its class. So the jQuery is not being used or called. And the reason that is because we're calling it before we actually load the H1. Now, if you've dealt with, if you're a web developer and you've seen jQuery in the head, then you've probably seen the document ready syntax. So what we need to do is say jQuery document dot ready. Alright, so in the ready method we want to say function. So we're just opening up a self-calling function here. It doesn't have a name, it's just gonna run. We want to end that with a semicolon. Now this is where we want to put in all of our jQuery, right in between the parentheses. So if we save that and we reload, now it's back. We have the class is now equal to red. So just remember this syntax. If possible, make it a snippet in your editor just so you can just paste it right in, because if you don't have this and you have your script tags before what you're actually taking and manipulating, and it's not going to work. So let's do something else besides add a class. Let's take this H1 and let's change the content with the .html method. So now let's say this heading is from jQuery. So if we save that, reload, this heading is from jQuery. So the .html method or action, whatever you want to call it, it works like inner HTML in JavaScript, which we've used in the past sections. It just changes the content in those tags. Now if I create another H1, we'll say here's another heading, and save that, and we reload, we also get this heading is from jQuery, because here we are grabbing all of the H1 tags in the document. Now if we want to single out one of these, we can add, let's say add a class of my class. So if we want to only change this one, we can go back to this selector or this element and just say dot my class. So now it's only going to grab the H1 tag with my class. So if we save that and reload, you can see that the one without the class is back to its original text. So let's look at some events. If we go to our browser, let's just go to jQuery.com. I'm just going to type in jQuery events. I'm not sure the exact URL. api.jQuery.com/category/events. And there's just loads of events. We have a lot of the events that we've seen with standard JavaScript. We have blur, click, change, and then we have double click, different kinds of position type of events. The mouse position relative to the left edge to the top edge. Let's see, we have our focus and blur, we've seen those. Focus in, focus out, hover, just loads of events that we can use for different kinds of animations and manipulations. So let's use something simple. Let's just use the click event. And if we click on click, we can see it gives us the syntax, it gives us the definition, and also shows us some examples. So all we need is the selector or whatever we're targeting, and do .click, and then inside that we want to open up a function, a self-calling function, and then in that function is what we want to do when it's clicked. So what I'm going to do here is just clear everything out. I'm going to leave the document.ready, and what I want to do is create a button, and the button will say change text, and then below that I'm going to create an H1 that says this is the text to change. Okay, so if we save that and take a look, we just have a button and then we have some text in H1. So what I want to do is make it so that when we click this we can actually change this text. So what we need to do is we want to grab the button using the JQuery object. So we'll say button, and remember this is going to grab all the buttons on the page because we didn't specify a class or an ID. So we'll say button.click, and then in these parentheses we want to start a function. Alright, so when this button is clicked, what do we want to do? We want to take the H1 and we want to change the content, and we can do that with .html like we just did. And then in that HTML, we can say here is some new text. Alright, so very simple, couple lines of code. Save that and reload, and if we click this, it changes. Here is some new text. Now we can also use effects. So if we go to, I'm just going to type in JQuery effects. So here are just a bunch of different animations and effects that we can use. Fade in, fade out, how we can hide and show, slide up and slide down. Let's use that. So we have this, we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to change what happens when we click the button. Instead of changing the text, let's do slide up, and that takes a parameter of the speed. You can use keywords like slow, fast, or you can use numbers, and I believe it's milliseconds or something like that. I'm not really sure. 200 is a good speed though. So if we save that and we go and reload and we click the button, it slides up. Now it doesn't slide back down because we haven't specified that. If we want to do that, we can use slide toggle. So if we change this here to slide toggle, let's reload, and we can have it go up and down. So you can see this is the building block for those great sliders and slideshows and tabs that you see on different websites. And we can also do what's called chaining. We can just keep chaining different things. So let's say .html, I'll change this again, we'll say change text. So we're just chaining on here. We're taking the H1 tag, we're changing the HTML, and then we're toggling the slide. So let's save that, and you can see it changed and it's slide toggling. So there's just a lot of different things. I'd really suggest that you go to api.jquery.com and just check out all the different effects and events and manipulation. It's really helpful. There's a lot of great documentation. So that's it for now, and in the next section we're going to do our project, which will include pretty much everything we've gone through in this chapter. We'll include JavaScript for form validation, and we'll also use some jQuery effects. So I will see you in that section.